Welcome to another edition of Management Thoughts in 15 Minutes. Today we are going to do something very special. We are going to get onto the time machine and travel for almost 100 years back. Yes, we're going to go to 1901 and then look at the next 100 years. We're going to live in those 100 years and see what all events happened in those 100 years. Right? So let's begin. Now we are in the United States of America and the year is 1901. The century does not begin on a very happy note because President McKinley has been assassinated. There's a huge earthquake in California and almost 25,000 people are homeless. Next, we go on for slightly better happy news. A Federal Reserve has been set up, so has been Harvard Business School established in the United States of America. Ford starts marketing their Model T at $850 per vehicle. Very good news. Unfortunately, Titanic, with sails from London to New York, has sunk with almost 1,600 people on board. Very sad note. Next few years are again even more worse because World War has now begun. All the countries have now got into a world war. Almost 4 years the war goes on. At the end of the war, there is some light at the end of the tunnel because the League of Nations is set up, and women in the United States do get to vote during this particular period. Again, some happy times, war end, new developments. A radio broadcast starts off. There's a first call which happens from New York to London. Walt Disney, IBM, Chrysler all have started manufacturing and becoming bigger. It's the end of those silent movies. And one very critical thing for students, your comprehensive SAT exams have started off now. So now anyone can write those exams and then qualify for university. The next years again, with every good, a bad has to follow. So next few years again, it's a Great Depression. The stock market crash, people are not doing great, there's a lot of loss to the economy, and there's a lot of unemployment which is happening in the economy at present. With the economy improving, so do the good measures. So Social Security, Securities and Exchange Commission, air travel trials all start happening. The next few years are not so good because World War II has now broken up. All the countries have now got involved into this. Pearl Harbor has been bombed, so has Japan been bombed in those two cities by US. The next few years again are slightly positive because the war has now ended. United Nations has been set up. Education and housing has now become affordable for everybody. On the medical front, polio vaccine and kidney transplants and mechanical hearts are now seeing the light of the day. The big king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, is now rising in the world. And this particular generation for the next 10-20 years is known as the baby boomers. We'll keep this discussion for a separate day as to what baby boomers is all about. But the next few years, again, there is some amount of unrest in the country, people demanding for their own rights. Right, Toyota starts exporting their cars from Japan to US. So now you're seeing a huge influx of cars coming into United States. John F. Kennedy, he has a dream, he has a vision. He wants to put man on the moon, and that's why he sets up NASA as a big institution. And post that, all of us remember Apollo 11 when Neil Armstrong became the first man to set his foot on the moon. In the same period, around 64 to 70, people above the age of 18 now get a right to vote. The immigration policy is now relooked at. Certain bad things like a HIV virus raise their head, while the other side, Intel starts making chips which are very important for processing. The next 30 years, I would call it the year of technological advancements because there are so many new things that happen in those 30 years. The first mobile call was made, Microsoft was set up, barcodes were used. The world got to know how critical oil is as a commodity. Unfortunately, President Nixon had to resign because of a scam. Apple was set up. The generation moved from Elvis to Michael Jackson. Again, an oil shock came in when people got to know how critical oil is and how precious it is. United States decided to boycott Moscow Olympics. That was one of the events which happened in those 10-15 years then. IBM, Apple start making personal computers. Dell starts coming into the market with their own personal computers. In retaliation, Russia decides to boycott the Los Angeles Olympics. And during that particular phase somewhere, there is a truce between United States and Russia, and they become friends to some extent. A minor war, we would not call it a world war, but a minor war which erupts between Iraq, when Iraq invades Kuwait. So the Gulf War actually breaks up around the 90s. I'm sure most of you might not even have been born when this particular thing would have happened. But then USSR starts breaking up, Germany unites, Yahoo and Windows are developed in that particular time, and General Motors actually launches their electrical vehicles during that particular phase, during the early 90s. Towards the last 5 years of the generation, there's an Asian market crash. Stock markets start tumbling in the Southeast Asia. Titanic, as a movie, when we were on 1912, we saw Titanic actually sinking. Towards the end of the generation, end of this century, a movie is made on Titanic where you can actually sit and watch what actually happened on that particular plane, on that particular ship. In terms of population, the population was around 28 crores in around the last part of the century, while it was 7.7 crores at the start of the century. See the huge gap, the huge difference which has happened. And the century ends with some sort of a dot-com crash or Y2K crash, as we typically call it. Do we realize we have lived for 100 years? Starting from 1901 to the year 2000, we have lived for 100 full years in the United States of America. During this phase, we have seen a lot of events, some of them negative, some of them positive, some have been downs, there have been some ups, and then we put them all together and then try putting a sort of a chord around them to understand how it looks like. And there's a wavy pattern to this entire series of events that have happened in the last 100 years. Do we see a match somewhere to this wavy pattern to something else that we have studied or seen in the past? Yes, you're right. It is very much similar to a business cycle. Every business goes through a boom, it goes through a recession, it goes through a depression, and then has a recovery. We all have our ups, we all have our downs. Exactly this series of events actually proves to us how a business cycle also looks like. Now for the final word on today's topic. Every human being, economy or business continuously goes through the cycles of boom and slump. We all of us are aware how we can go through our highs, we can go through our downs, we might have a good day, we might have a bad day. But what's extremely important during all these phases is that we keep giving our best. We keep giving our best and the results will automatically follow. This is so much true in today's world when we all of us are reeling under the impact of COVID, that we do not stop ourselves irrespective of whatever happens. We keep giving our best and the results will surely follow. We might not have seen all the events that happened in the last 100 years, but surely we should hope and pray that may we live in those interesting times so that we learn a lot out of them. That's it for today. Thanks for your time and watch out for our next video. Till we meet again. Thank you. Bye.